This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
One of the figures, the main figure, in fact, of yesterday's congressional hearings, the Select Committee investigating the insurrection, the attempted overthrow of the United States government by way of voiding Joe Biden's election and reinstalling Donald Trump as president. One of the main characters was Jeffrey Clark, an environmental lawyer with the DOJ who was getting ready to be elevated to acting attorney general. No experience, never tried a criminal case, never been in a grand jury deposition. Well, maybe he has now, just as a witness. Well, yesterday, his phone was seized by the FBI. His home was raided. They searched his house. He's going to talk about that in this clip from Tucker. Because, of course, where do you run when you were involved in the attempted overthrow of the United States government? When you are hip deep in a failed coup attempt against these United States? Where do you go? Where do you go for refuge? You go to Tucker Carlson. And really, pointedly, he's just screaming at the hills for everyone to really understand the fact that he doesn't have any criminal lawyer experience, because you'd think a criminal defense attorney or a criminal prosecutor certainly would know about the right to remain silent, because anything that he goes on TV and says can be entered into the record in court criminal prosecutorial proceedings. It didn't stop Jeffrey Clark. He ran to Tucker Carlson's show. I got two clips here. One is about 2 minutes. The other is a little shorter than that, about 45 seconds or so. Some dangerous stuff is being promulgated here. One, how they are trying to put forward this idea that, one, that the Biden administration stole his phone as though they didn't have a search warrant, as though this wasn't a duly authorized, court-approved, judge-approved, legal system-approved operation. It's along the same lines as when Peter Navarro was arrested and went on TV and whined about having them put handcuffs on him. Like he has no idea what happens when someone gets arrested. Anyway, watch this clip with Jeffrey Clark on Tucker Carlson's show, whining about the fact that he's maybe going to be held accountable for attempting to overthrow the United States government.
We are happy to have Jeff Clark join us now. He's a senior fellow with the Center for Renewing America. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. This is this is a Soviet account, really. So tell us what happened and why.
It is, and good to be here, Tucker. So yesterday at about just before 7 a.m., there was loud banging at my door, insistent banging. So I just rushed down as fast as I could. I quickly figured out, that there were agents there. I opened the door and asked for the courtesy to be able to put some pants on, and was told, no, you got to come outside. So I came outside. They swept the house. Eventually, they let me go back inside and put the pants on. But then, by my count at one point, 12 agents and 2 Fairfax County police officers went into my house, searched it for 3.5 hours. They even brought along something, Tucker, I've never seen before or heard of, a electronic sniffing dog. And they took all of the electronics from my house. I don't blame the agents. I think what you're talking about in terms of weaponization is really about who's pointing the agents and telling them what to do, Tucker.
So Peter Strzok, who worked at the FBI, is effectively a criminal, in my view, never really punished, sent out a tweet today mocking you and gloating over the fact that the Biden administration stole your cell phone and will now be reading all of your private messages. I mean, at what point can we say the Department of Justice, where you once served, is a political instrument? It's completely out of control.
Yeah, I think this is highly politicized, and it's also part, Tucker, if you didn't know it, of a nationwide effort yesterday. There were multiple states where multiple people were roughly simultaneously, raided for their electronic devices. And that obviously requires a high level of coordination. And look, with the hearing that was pointed at me and targeting me today, with the special audience member of Sean Penn, so this is Hollywood. The very next day, it looks highly coincidental. And Tucker, I just don't believe in coincidences.
So one, they chalk it up to this is Soviet-like. The same guy who loves Russia apparently doesn't see the irony there. Loud and insistent banging as though he's being victimized because the FBI is following their protocol when serving a warrant, a search warrant. Not an arrest warrant, a search warrant. They went to a judge signed a search warrant for them to go in and find materials of note related to his attempt to overthrow the government that can't be overstated. This isn't some financial crime. This was a crime against you and me and democracy itself. Simultaneous raids. This shows a high level of coordination. As though the FBI is some slapstick organization. There are 55 field offices across the country. It is the Department of Justice that you were put forward as a candidate to lead, Jeffrey Clark. You have that little understanding of law enforcement operations. You have that little understanding of the tactics used by the FBI. And then whining about Sean Penn, goofy ass Sean Penn being at the thing. Actors are also political activists, just like plumbers are political activists, or other lawyers who don't work in government. It doesn't preclude that person from showing up. The fact that he has a little notoriety and is able to sit between the cops, you can criticize that, but that doesn't prove your point that this is a Hollywood operation just because someone from Hollywood was there. Dum-dum. And then he finishes with the stupid statement of, I don't believe in coincidences. You don't? About 10 years ago, I bumped into a buddy of mine from the Marine Corps in the Minneapolis airport by chance. That's a coincidence. You believe that was like fate? There are coincidences, dum-dum. And then secondly, maybe I should have started with this clip, but they ended the show with this. So I want to go in chronological order for the most part here. Some of the most dangerous things were said in the rap here about how Jeffrey Clark doesn't recognize this country. This is Stasi-like stuff, the brutal East German police. And then Tucker gives a wink and a nod to violence, that, there's going to be violence. I don't condone that, but it's very likely to happen. We've already seen the violence, Tucker Carlson, that you've justified, that you've discounted. Scum of the earth. Watch this.
I just think we're living in a era that I don't recognize, and increasingly, Tucker, I don't recognize the country anymore with these kinds of Stasi-like things happening.
Yeah, this is Stalinist. At some point, somebody's going to fight back, and it's going to get super ugly. I pray that doesn't happen, but I think it probably will. It's just the whole thing is so sad, and I'm sorry that you were caught up in it. In your pajamas, like they could have just called you. It's outrageous.
Jeffrey Clark wasn't caught up in anything. Jeffrey Clark was near the tip of the spear in an attempt to overthrow the United States government. The only Stasi-like activities were by way of Donald Trump and his team and the satellite network of insurrectionists around him. This is a concerted effort to convince. The next video I'm going to talk about is, in a new poll, 64% of Americans say that they think January 6th attack was planned. This is what Tucker Carlson is worried about as he justifies the insurrection, as he gives a little wink and a nod as kind of a call to violence, to hold on, to our white supremacist nature in our country. The work of this committee is important because of the fact that they want to obscure what took place. They want to act like it was trespassing or just some vandalism that took place. When there was a concerted effort to worm their way through the Justice Department and use the power and authority of the United States Department of Justice to nullify an American election in which over 81 million people voted for the current president. They claim there's all this reams and piles and mountains of evidence that support Donald Trump's claim that it was rigged. They've never shown a single piece of evidence, even to the people who could have stepped in and taken part in this coup. Rusty Bowers, the Arizona Speaker of the House. He asked for it multiple times. Give me the evidence. Give me the evidence. Give me the evidence. Rudy Giuliani, oh, I'll give it to you. It's on its way. No evidence. Because there is none. And these calls for violence, verging on criminal, little Tucker, you smooth-skinned, smooth-brained haircut. I'm going to leave it there. I'd love to know what you think. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. If you appreciate what I do, and you'd like to support my work in a small, very modest way, for pennies a day, you can become a channel member. For $1.99 a month, you can become a channel member, supporting and producing what I do here. Click the join button, see what's involved, make a decision. I would appreciate it very much. You could also go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. That's another way to support my work here and on the podcast. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore just about everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And have a great weekend. I love you guys. I appreciate it very much. Be genuine. Take care of one another.